This book should have been the next series in the Avatar mythos, not this next retread on Netflix with the live action series. Hey guys, welcome to my video of Before You Read The Rise of Kyoshi. It's basically a video review and I talk about what I like, what I didn't like, and if I recommend the book or not. Oh, and by the way, no spoilers. We will have spoiler review on our other video called After You Read The Rise of Kyoshi. Let's start off with what I liked. This book, quite easily, and I have to preface that I just read it last night, and so I have the bias of just reading it, and I haven't been able to separate myself from the project with all the rest of the projects that I've watched with Korra and Last Airbender, so keep that in mind. But this book has the best villain, hands down, of any Avatar story that I've ever followed. Every time we were in his POV, I definitely even felt the author was more comfortable with him than he even was more so than Kyoshi, which I'll get into a little bit later. But yes, quite easily the best villain, the best motivation, the best execution, fighting style, like everything about the villain I was totally down for. I don't even want to call him a villain because he's definitely more of an antagonist, which I think is better suited for the Airbender Korra landscape. The best villains are the ones who are antagonists, not the ones who are just straight villains. There's also a companion that is with Kyoshi. His name is Lao Gay. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these right because there's no audiobook version of it. So for you guys who are watching in the future and we might have the official pronunciations of these names, I'm probably saying them wrong, but I'm doing the best I can. But yes, that companion to her, really interesting guy. I thought he was the most interesting of the entire Avatar, Team Avatar group in this particular case. And I can't say too much about him because again, this is non-spoilers, but I just want to say that I love him quite a bit. But both of them, and they both kind of play as antagonists. I can't even reveal the antagonist I'm talking about because it's a big reveal, so I can't even talk about most of this book without spoiling it. But also, the world building in this is so rich. And obviously you can do that much better when you have a fiction, when you have prose fiction versus if you have a show or even a comic book. But this goes deep, deep, deep into not just the world building of like the fighting styles and what's going on in the world itself, but the political intrigue. Now, this has always been something that the Avatar guys have always tried out, is to dive deeper and deeper into politics, which is what we saw, from the shift between Airbender and Korra, where it got definitely more political focused. But this book is probably the best realization of political intrigue, I feel like, in any of the Avatar stories, period. But that's not to say that it just does away with the fight scenes. I even would say that it has two of my very, very favorite fight scenes of the entire series. And yes, I'm completely doting on this book because it deserves doting. I think it does so many things right. And even though I said that, has this great political intrigue and it goes deep into the world building, it doesn't, the fight scenes are also just incredible. There's one fight scene that maybe takes place over the course of maybe a minute and a half. That's great. But then my favorite one is one that takes place over the course of like 5-10 seconds. Again, we'll talk about that in spoilers, but it's great, guys. It's really good. But most of all, you guys probably want to know about Kyoshi herself. I definitely love the struggle she went through to become Avatar. I feel like with these Avatar stories, we sometimes see these avatars gaining their powers too quickly. With Korra, she was able to bend when she was a baby. Aang, he learned most of the elements within the span of less than a year. But with Kyoshi, I really got the indication that it took time for her to get better. Or with Roku, Roku, it took him time to master the elements. And I prefer that kind of story where you see a slow progression rather than just like, oh, I gotta rush, and I got it, that kind of a thing. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the story. Now, the things I didn't like, and the reason why on Goodreads I rated this as a low 5 rather than a high 5 rating, which doesn't really matter on Goodreads, it's just 1 to 5. You can't really, do half stars. So for me, this was really a 4.5 star than a true 5 star, is because of the romantic subplot. I did not believe in the relationship that was presented to me, and not for the reasons you might be thinking, not because, well, I'll tell you this in case you have an issue with this, but if you do have an issue with this, you probably shouldn't be on my channel at all. But there is a queer relationship in the story, but separate from that, in the same way that I had issues with the Korrasami stuff, I just feel like it was tacked on. I don't think it was a natural progression, and I would say the same if it was a straight relationship, which, there kind of is a straight relationship. I don't want to spoil things. I can't spoil things. Sorry, I can't talk too much. But generally speaking, I just didn't feel for the relationship that I think I was supposed to feel for it. I actually feel like it was on the wayside, kind of a sidetrack, and the way it culminates didn't really matter to me. I wasn't like, oh yes, I'm so glad they got together. Now, I might be the only one on that one. There could be other people out there who say like, oh, I'm so for that couple. I'm just not. Also, the pacing was kind of weird. There's like 1,000 scene breaks in this book, and I know they probably did that because younger readers have a much shorter attention span. And I actually appreciated it like in the beginning, but there was times where it'd be a paragraph or maybe like 2 lines and then the scene break, and that broke the flow for me. So something else to look out for is that I wasn't a fan of the scene break. Also, I feel like FCE had a trouble with going between the limited third person perspective and his author voice. Like there was times where it didn't mesh very well, which is why I was saying before the antagonist POV works so well, because I think it aligns a little bit more closely to what Yi typically writes, versus when he was in Kyoshi's POV, it didn't really mesh as well. Like I don't feel like Kyoshi's POV represented what was really going on in her mind, rather than when she had dialogue, I was like, okay, cool, yeah, that sounds like Kyoshi, that sounds like a young teenage girl, but the prose, not so much. Also, the criminals in here were oddly and extremely dogmatic to a strange code. That's one of the world building things that I didn't quite mesh with, or like kind of took me out of it, because like really, like are they really going to be that extreme about being criminals? But again, that's just like more preference than anything else. And the overall team avatar I feel like wasn't as strong as even say Korra, and definitely not as good as Airbender. There's only maybe 1, maybe 2 characters in team avatar that I was actually interested to learn more about, or was like, oh cool, yeah, that person's in the scene, I would like to see what happens. But that one person that I mentioned before, which is a Lao Gay, or Lao Guy, or Lao Gay, I don't know how you pronounce it, he was amazing. Like the things that he was teaching to Kyoshi, the lessons that he was imparting to her about morality, I thought was very, very intriguing. And I was slightly disappointed by, not the whole ending, but one very vital piece to the ending, because the whole thing is leading up to Kyoshi's kind of like vengeance spree, and the way in which that culminates and manifests at the end felt a little bit like a cop-out to me, and I didn't enjoy that, so it kind of sullied my overall enjoyment of the book, though I still appreciate it. Now, I definitely, if you're an Avatar fan, you need to stop doing what you're doing right now. You need to read this book. I can't recommend it enough to you if you are down for that world. If you haven't experienced Avatar in any capacity, I would definitely say watch Airbender first, and then read this book, and then you'll have a very good treat at the end of your, watching of that show. But otherwise, yes, I definitely wholeheartedly recommend this book. There are things about it I had misgivings about, but they're completely overshadowed by the deep political intrigue, an amazing antagonist, and a really good struggle to see Kyoshi rise to, to see Kyoshi rise to the legendary avatar that she will become. But that's it. Let me know your book review, non-spoilers, in the comments below. And as always, peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.